Thank you for joining this session. I will host it alongside Oscar. I am Guillaume Callot. It's a French name. I cannot hide that. I live in the US for the past 6 years, but I was born and raised in France. I've been doing business a lot there. I'm very excited today. I'm running the API Partner Organization, and I'm very glad to see the activities with Salesforce now taking another dimension, especially with what we are going to show you today. So let me introduce Oscar. Oscar is also in the API organization. He's running the customer solution engineering team, and he will be my partner to go deep into the details of that new solution that we are bringing to market. OK, so let me start with a little quiz. I told you I'm French, so I'm going to test your French skills today. How do you say customer journey in French? Customer journey. No? No one wants to try? So customer journey stands for parcours client. Client is customer. Parcours is journey. But I'm sure you know the word parcours with another meaning. Parcours is also a very spectacular discipline, athletic discipline that consists in going from point A to B in a urban environment as fast and as efficiently as possible. And if you've seen some movies or documentaries, it's absolutely stunning to see these guys run and take risks in steep buildings.
I was going to demonstrate that, but we couldn't get insurance coverage.
Yeah, the setup was not perfect, but next time.
Next time.
So this story with the parcours stuck with me because the people that are practicing this discipline are called traceurs. It's also a French word. But when you translate tracer back in English, it's basically trailblazer. So the trailblazers are the one doing parcours. And this analogy stuck with me because I remembered a white paper that Gartner wrote about customer experience that it was already a few years back. But the title of that paper really illustrated perfectly what I wanted to share with you today. Customer journeys aren't created. They are discovered. And what that basically means, and I'm going to paraphrase what they say in this white paper, is that very often customer experience professionals try to design experience based on their process, based on their organization, but not based on customers, not based on their behavior. And the reality is that you cannot predict what customer journeys will be. They will be what the customer wants them to be. Their ability to switch channel, to set expectation with the organization, are, by their nature, extremely complex and extremely unpredictable. So customer experience professionals must remember that building customer journeys requires an enormous agility. You need to be ready for anything. You need to be ready to adapt in real time at very fast pace to the customer requirements when it comes to building and designing journeys. And for me, this analogy with parcours and the trailblazers is a good illustration of what we want to share with you today. So, well, you heard about customer experience, customer journeys for now a day and a half, and I'm sure you will live through that through your job every day. And you know why it matters. Here are some statistics that we drew from some analyst studies that are very classic. But clearly, building customer journeys and building memorable experiences is driven by 4 major aspects. First, it's consistency. You want that the experience you bring from one channel, maybe email, website, mobile app, voice, are consistent. You want to get the same quality of the answers, the same information even though these are different, served by maybe different systems, different organizations. You want, of course, a personalized experience. You want the brand you are interacting with to know who you are and what you expect from them. You want it to be contextual. If you are calling for the third time about the same problem, you don't want to have to repeat yourself. The context of what happened across multiple channels over a short period of time is extremely important. And last but not least, you want this experience to be empathetic. You want the brand you are talking to take into account your emotions, how you feel during that experience with whatever it is, either buying a product or getting a problem solved. But all of these are buzzwords of the industry, and I'm sure I don't learn you anything about that slide, but I'm sure you would all agree that delivering on these 4 principles is extremely hard. Because the systems and the people and the processes that underpin that experience are extremely diverse. You have multiple customer segments. You have multiple channels. You have multiple organizations that are serving your brand. You have multiple types of journeys from consideration to buying to servicing, etc. And no vendor in the world can pretend to solve it all. No vendor. It's necessarily solving for that big problem of the industry is necessarily going by using a system of systems. You need to integrate. You need to build together multiple types of platforms that are going to cohabitate and integrate very efficiently. So the vision that Vonage has is that to solve for the majority of these customer journey problems, you need to build a solution that relies on 2 fundamental platforms. First, a communication platform that brings together all the touch points, all the channels in a consistent fashion for all the users of the organization, not just in the contact center, but across the board for everyone that has the slightest level of interaction with a customer or a customer journey. But on top of that, you need also a CRM platform that collects all the data, all the context, all the history, and all the processes that underpin these journeys as well. So to deliver such a solution that takes advantage of the 2 platforms can be done in a variety of ways. There is not just one way. On this afternoon at 3 p.m., there is a panel discussion where a number of our partners of Vonage are going to explain how they have approached that combination of platforms to solve for a specific type of use cases. But today, I'm going to present one solution that we are proposing, targeting primarily IT decision makers and IT specialists so that they can design the customer experience for any kind of user in the organization. On this product, I'm announcing officially the Vonage Conversations for Salesforce, which is the name of this product. Thank you. That has been built on 4 fundamental ideas. So the first idea is that we communication enable any Salesforce workflows on UIs. That's extremely important because, as I said, we want to touch and enable every user in the organization, regardless where they are, regardless what's their job. Second is that, of course, we want to personalize every conversation with context. We are keeping trail of everything that happened in a conversation across all the channels, and we give a consistent view to the user about this. Third, we want this to be extremely agile. Remember the parkour. We want this to be put in the hands of IT professionals that can change an experience on the spot without necessitating complex waterfall projects, complex subcontractors relationship, et cetera, et cetera. It has to be extremely flexible and agile. And last but not least, in order to deliver all of that, it has to be based on tools that are the day-to-day tools that these IT professionals use. And for that, we've used, of course, all the tools of Salesforce natively, and that's what we're going to see in a minute with Oscar. So you know who Vonage is. That's why you're here. So I will not do you the insult of giving you all the credentials we have in the Salesforce space. We are contact center leader on the AppExchange. We are unified communication leader. We have incredible credentials from analysts on the industry. And Salesforce recognizes us in many ways. We are top rated on the AppExchange. We are Summit partner. We have more than 800 customers. I'm sure this number is even bigger now, running with our contact center suite. So with that very strong experience on the power of our API platform, that's what on what we have built to create that new offer. On hopefully you will see how much impact it can have for the business. So without further ado, let me have Oscar introduce you to the use cases on what this product is about.
All right. So I'll do a little bit of a setup with this scenario, just to give you some context. What we have here is an insurance cross-sell, insurance policy cross-sell. So let's assume that we've already put out a billboard or sent out a mass SMS campaign. It could have been using Marketing Cloud. We also have a product coming out that will allow you to do that right from our dashboard. So in the first part of the mass campaign, we're enticing them with a special offer, right? And so a campaign goes out, are you interested? And the user is coming back and responding to that call to action, and that's coming into a number, a phone number as an SMS. It interacted with a Flow Builder bot that was built using the Salesforce standard Flow Builder. And so through an intake form that we expose through this Flow Builder, we'll collect some information such as their name, their email address, their preferred contact method. For the purpose of this demo, we're going to keep it SMS. And then once we have enough information to build a case in Salesforce, we'll go ahead and create that case and then assign it to a Salesforce case queue, where a policy expert may go in there and look at the case and see if the user qualifies or the customer qualifies for this additional service. So once it's been handed over to the policy expert and the cases or the insurance policy is granted, then the case manager can go ahead and close the case. Another flow in Salesforce can take over, trigger a notification, again, using that same channel that was used, in this case, an SMS, back to the user, letting them know that their policy has been granted and their case has been closed. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next section. It'll be a video playing that will show the flow that was used to create this, this scenario. So let me see if this moves over. And I'll go ahead and there's no audio, so I'll just kind of mention what's going on in this section. So here you're seeing an interaction. So anytime you install this connector, a custom object is created in your Salesforce environment that has to do with interaction. So that could be SMS, WhatsApp. Later we'll be adding additional channels. We're looking for inbound interactions for SMS. We're checking if the phone number associated with this SMS has already been in the system, if there's already a case created for it. If there's not a case for that particular number, then we'll go ahead and create a case. We'll start creating a case. And the first thing we're going to do is respond with a question. Are you interested in a new policy? And so that's the step that you're seeing here, where we're sending back an interaction. I'm showing a screen capture or a video recording of a phone where the user is replying, yes, I'm interested. And then we're asking, okay, so what type of policy are you interested in? Home, auto, life? And after some additional back and forth, as I mentioned, we're able to capture that and start building a case. While that is playing, I'll mention that in this particular demo, we are working with a case, but it is offered so that it works with any standard Salesforce object, including custom objects. So you're not specifically tied to the standard objects. So we've collected some additional information, including the preferred contact method. Again, we're keeping it SMS. The user is responding saying, yeah, reach back out to me. I'd like to interact with SMS. Upon that final question, we go ahead and move the case that we started building into a case queue. And here we're switching over to the Salesforce view where we see that case. And if the user gets a little impatient and wants to get a status on that case, you can still front that with another flow that checks the status of a case and then responds appropriately. So as the policy expert, now that I have this case in my queue, I can open up the case and see the interaction that has been going on with the automated system. I'm able to scroll up through that conversation widget that we expose in the object, and I could see all of the previous conversations. I can also respond myself with any additional questions that I may have. So if I need to check if the user is already covered by an existing policy, or if they want to add additional coverage, or maybe they want a different type of policy, life, whatever, I can have that exchange with them, and so on. Once I've determined that they're eligible, I can go ahead and close that case. And again, another flow within Salesforce can take care of any response back upon the closure of that case. So that's a demo. If you want to see a little bit more on that demo, I'll be back there later, and I could take you more in depth into that. So some of the key features, and I won't cover all of them, but we covered through this early access program that we're offering starting this week. We are going to be guiding you through the setup of this connector through a self-service, self-serve URL, and we'll guide you through the setup of that process. We're only going to be offering SMS for now and WhatsApp. Some of the features that you saw within the connector itself is you can use the connector within your flows, but also have access to that conversation widget within any Salesforce object, default or custom. And we are using the Vonage Messages API. So later, we'll add the additional channels that are supported with it, Facebook Messenger, Viber, so if you're doing international messaging as well. The way that we're going to price this early adopter program is the usage of the connector itself is going to be free. You're just going to pay for the traffic, so basically the messages that you're sending, both inbound and outbound, the standard pricing we have on a per usage for that. And then once we start getting into general availability, we will be offering the connector through AppExchange. So the goal is to make it easy for you to adopt yourself, to integrate into your Salesforce environment with a simple setup through AppExchange. We're also going to be supporting Marketing Cloud. Currently, we do have some sample code that integrates our Messages API with Marketing Cloud. But once we come closer to GA, we'll integrate that into this connector so you get it all in one. And so future features will include conversation threading. So if you remember from the demo, you saw one conversation, but you can imagine that sometimes you'll have conversations with end users on multiple subjects, and you want to keep those organized. So you want to be able to, move them from thread to thread and categorize them appropriately, right? We'll integrate with other products, other Vonage products, such as AI Studio, so you can have additional, and I'll move over, I know some of you are trying to read the screen. We'll integrate with additional products, such as Studio AI, so you can have more smarter conversations. You can set up intents and use some of the other capabilities that can trigger from Studio AI. We'll also integrate with our VCC product, and as I mentioned before, our bulk conversation campaign through our dashboard. And so in terms of pricing for the GA, we will have an option for a premium version of it, which will include some of these more advanced capabilities. So I'll go through some of the key differentiators. So self-service onboarding, we want you to make it easy for you to start using. You can escalate from bot interactions to humans, as you saw in the demo. We're using the latest Flow Builder best practices. So, pretty much anything that you can do from Flow Builder, any trigger that can be triggered from there, whether it's a record in Salesforce, updating, deleting, or changing state, can trigger any interaction using this connector, using any channel available. You'll be able to do conversation analytics by using either our own Vonage, Studio AI, AI capabilities, or Salesforce AI capabilities such as Einstein. Privacy, with many of our channels, we also have the ability to redact any PII information, just depending on what your needs are, what the use case is. So as you know, we do have other listings on the App Exchange, our contact center offering. We have a unified communications connector that come into Salesforce. So with this, what we're doing is we're offering conversations for Salesforce, but it's not necessarily tied to a seat. So one of the questions or some of the questions that you may ask, when deciding whether to use this connector is, do you need that this capability tied to a contact center seat? With this connector, you don't have to have that, right? You can allow any Salesforce users, as Gil mentioned earlier, to use this capability. So it could be somebody from sales, whether they're interacting with their prospects through an opportunity object, or it could be any other internal users that need to send out communications from within the Salesforce environment, is something that you want to ask yourself. You can deploy unique workflows. So that workflow that I created using Flow Designer, it probably took me a day and a half to implement. And so you can be up and running pretty quickly. And it's about also tracking the contextual customer journeys. So, I mentioned that we're keeping a record of your conversations. Once we have the ability to organize them, you'll still have access to them. So anybody that opens up that record will have the ability to see, if there was a conversation between that user in the past, what that conversation was about. And it may still be relevant, so it's important to make that available to anybody that is working that conversation or any new conversations. I mentioned earlier you can integrate with the other AI services, including our own and Salesforce Einstein as well. Let's see, what else do we have? And I think this one.
So in order to wrap up this announcement, I'd like to talk a couple of minutes about the early adopter program. So you have here a QR code that you can scan. It will bring you to a form, a Google Sheet that captures some essential information about your requirements. The eligibility is pretty simple. You need to have someone in your organization that is competent in using the Flow Builder. That's the main requirement. We are going to run this early adopter program for about 3 months until the end of the year. And we are going to roll out that, but we have some capacity limits. So sign up if you are really interested, and we'll consider your request. The benefits for you, of course, is that you are going to be supported by Vonage experts. So we are not leaving you on your own with that technology. We include some traffic credits, so you can start using it absolutely at no cost. And if eventually we have a very successful deployment, of course, we'll do a case study together. So as I said, we are very happy to continue the conversation. We have a specific booth for that demo. Sign up to the program, and we'll get you started. So I started my session with a quiz. So just making sure everybody was listening. How do you say customer journey in French? Come on. Parcours client, exactement. Thank you everyone for your attention, and see you during the event. Enjoy the event.
All right.